So, you know who killed Bob Chappell?
Yes.
And it certainly wasn't Sue Neill Fraser.
For 10 years, 25-year-old Meaghan Vass has carried a terrible secret. The homeless woman and former drug addict claims she knows what really happened to Bob Chappell the night he was murdered on his yacht in Hobart. Meaghan could be the most unlikely saviour for Sue Neill Fraser.
If you've watched my previous videos on the Sue Neill Fraser case, then you're probably familiar with Meaghan Vass and how she fits into the case. For those of you who aren't, here's a quick summary. Also, I'll link my Sue Neill Fraser playlist in the description for this video, so you can go back and familiarise yourself with the case. Meaghan Vass was a 15-year-old homeless girl at the time that Bob Chappell disappeared. She was living in women's shelters, was herself known to Tasmania police as a petty criminal, as was her boyfriend of the time. A sizable sample of Meaghan's DNA was found on board the Four Winds yacht after Bob's disappearance, and there was at least one witness who could place her and her associates in the area on that same night. In court, during Sue's trial, Meaghan denied ever having been on board the yacht. Then, in 2017, after Sue had been incarcerated for 7 years, she came forward and provided a stat dec saying that she was on board the yacht that night with individuals who she would not name, and that she did not see Sue on board the yacht. Unfortunately, in court, during a subsequent appeal, she retracted this statement, claiming to have been pressured into making her admission. The following clips are from an interview 2 years later which she did with 60 Minutes Australia reporter Liam Bartlett in March of 2019, claiming that she wished to set the record straight. I have also used numerous explanatory clips from The Deception Detective. If you're interested in hearing really good, concise statement analyses, I highly recommend subscribing to his channel, the link for which is also in the description for this video.
Right, so if the upside is huge and the downside is minimal, you can expect there to be cheaters.
If what you're saying is true, then
I've got no reason to lie.
then Sue Neill Fraser has been in jail for nothing. What do you think about that?
I think it's horrible. But
So, what does Meaghan gain from doing this interview? I suspect that with a growing number of people at this point in time who were speaking out about Sue's wrongful incarceration, that Meaghan was probably feeling some pressure. After the huge letdown of Sue's failed appeal in 2017, it's possible that she was feeling some public negativity from people who believed that her actions had denied Sue of her chance of freedom. On the flip side, however, by publicly coming forward and sharing her story, she was facing the possibility of not just legal repercussions, but also retribution from the individuals who were responsible for Bob's death. It seems to me that for Meaghan, the gains to be had from coming forward were greatly overshadowed by the risks involved in doing so. I believe her when she says that she has no reason to lie.
Christie's responses are very direct, and this is a sign that they're honest, right? So they're short and direct, and they're responsive to the question. Whereas if you've seen my video about this Marilyn Manson accuser or the Andrew Tate accusers I analyzed, you'll know that they try to imply things without actually saying them. And what they do is they try to add extra details to paint an even worse picture or to get across an agenda, right, to make things look worse than they were. So they actually add extraneous facts while not giving direct answers, right? And that's the sign of a liar.
Why should we believe you now? Give me one good reason.
I don't have a good reason, really, but I'm hoping you do, because I've realised that it's the right thing to do and I'd like to see her home with her family.
By saying that she doesn't have one good reason why he should believe her, this makes me think that Meaghan Vass is actually being honest. A person who wasn't being honest would no doubt try and find excuses and reasons as to why they should be believed. It's the right thing to do, and I'd like to see her home with her family. This is a direct statement, and it is responsive to the question, why should I believe you? Here she's saying her motivation for coming forward and speaking out. She wants him to believe her because she wants to see Sue home with her family. Note she does actually use I in that statement. That also makes me think that here she is genuinely telling the truth. Otherwise, I'd imagine she would say, because it's the right thing to do, Sue should be home with her family. Not, I'd like to see Sue home with her family.
Tell me a bit about what life was like for you in Hobart, around that time.
Hard. I was living in women's shelters and on the streets. It was pretty hard.
Very hard. Why was that? Did you have problems at home?
Yeah, family relationship breakdown at 13. And that resulted in women's shelters, and
That's very difficult, isn't it, for such a young girl too?
it's been pretty massive.
Why is it taking you this long to speak up?
I don't know. I've lost my father. I've been living on the streets. I've been hounded by everybody. It's the right thing to do, please.
There's three significant things here. First of all, she leads with, I don't know. I think if she was trying to be deceptive, she would probably lead with some fantastical reason for why she hasn't come forward. She mentions the loss of her father and living on the streets. To me, this is her saying that she didn't have anyone to support her with the difficulty of coming forward and telling the truth. On the flip side, she says, I've been hounded and it's the right thing to do. This makes me wonder how much she wanted to come forward to do the right thing of her own accord, and how much she wanted to come forward because she was feeling pressured to do so. Of course, in a place as small as Tasmania, this doesn't necessarily mean that she was being directly pressured. Simply, her face had been all over the media. She was well known because of this. It would be hard to be a 25-year-old with serious mental health issues, struggling to exist, and feeling that the world is against you.
What sort of things have you had to put up with?
Well, I've had no shelter, I've had no safety, I've had no, I haven't been able to fend for myself properly. I've had no one to turn to.
Do you trust the police?
No, not really.
Are you clean now?
Yeah, yes.
How long have you been clean?
Oh, it's only recent. Yeah, but it's been hard.
You're still trying to stay off it. It's a struggle, isn't it? I can see that. Do you think this will help you? Telling the truth will help you with that struggle?
I'm hoping anyway.
The answer here was neither direct or short. She leads with pausing, and then follows with, it's only recent. She then doubles down by saying, it's been hard. She hasn't provided a direct answer. You would expect her to offer a solid time frame, a couple of months or a couple of weeks. Instead, she's vague and doubles down with, it's been hard. It appears that, in this instance at least, she is being deceptive.
So, on that day, why did you decide to go out into the bay?
It would have been along with him, I reckon. And no doubt he would have been knocking things off boats for money to get on the piss, and that being the case, I would have gone along with it, but not so that I would so much steal, but to have a drink or...
Yeah. You were just tagging along.
Yeah.
Note how many times she's used would've in this explanation. This isn't a definitive explanation. To me, it's conditional. Would've should come with an additional explanation. This would have happened had this happened. To me, there's something here that's being left out. I don't believe that she's being entirely untruthful. I believe that she's leaving out some important information. I think the key is in her statement about her own involvement. Not so that I would so much steal, but I think that is what's at the base of this. I think what she's telling us here is that it wasn't just her boyfriend who was doing the stealing. He wasn't just the one who would have been going onto yachts and stealing stuff. I think that what's happening here is that she's removing herself from the situation to avoid guilt. And by doing that, she's actually placing her boyfriend there on an entirely different occasion, an occasion which excludes her. Hence the reason this is what would have normally happened any other time, removing Meaghan from the picture. Based on what was said elsewhere in the interview, I believe that they were definitely there that night. However, this particular statement, I believe, is a general statement of what would normally happen when they went thieving from yachts.
It was something that he'd do often.
And there you have it. It was something that he would do often. She's describing how it would normally go down. In terms of saying they, I believe this is leakage, and that she's telling us that it wasn't just her boyfriend that she was with that night when something happened to Bob Chappell, and that there was a third person involved.
If they knew Bob Chappell was on board, would they have
Probably not.
got on that yacht?
I mean, I can't answer for them, I suppose, but probably not.
So it seems that the interviewer has also caught her reference to they and added that into the conversation. In response to that, she's now turned her answers to talk about they or them. It sounds like Liam Bartlett is good at catching truths in answers and leading the conversations based on that.
So let's listen again to this, right? And notice how direct the sentences are, past tense, very short, very clear. You can picture everything. When Christy says, he cut my head, that is a reliable statement. It's direct, it's active, it's in the past tense, it passes the sniff test, and it is it's surprisingly difficult for a liar to do that. Your brain will do everything it can not to tell a lie. It's very stressful.
What happened next is something that's haunted Meaghan ever since.
I remember being on board, and the person that I was with had obviously been spotted by Bob. I don't know, been told to piss off. They've had an argument, it's escalated. He's hit Bob, I don't know what with.
So he struck him.
You may have noticed a change of tense when she talks about what happens. He's hit Bob, as in he has hit Bob. I believe that this is not a sign of deception, but rather showing that she is in the moment, seeing the trauma in her head, reliving it.
If something traumatic happened to someone, they might actually talk about it in the present tense, and this is a well-known phenomenon. Trauma can cause people to speak in present tense when they're recounting the traumatic event.
Quite a few times, I think. Probably 20 minutes or so.
20 minutes.
Roundabouts.
It went on for a while.
Yeah.
This seems like an odd detail, right? It went on for 20 minutes or so. But, to me, in her head she's being truthful. I think she experienced that time freeze that can happen during a traumatic event, where in the moment of trauma, it feels like time has stopped or slowed down.
So it's an odd detail, and these odd details help establish that someone is telling the truth. Now, if they overdo it, then you should be aware that they might be aware that that's a sign that someone's telling the truth.
And then I saw a lot of blood, but I can't give any more than that. I can't remember.
I can't remember. This is a sign of honesty. She's not trying to make up extra details to convince the listener. She's simply saying, I can't remember. This is also something that you would expect of someone who has experienced trauma. There will be parts that their mind has blocked out that they can't remember because of the trauma.
The guy you were with was hitting Bob Chappell. Can you remember what he was hitting him with?
No.
And did you try to break it up?
I would have told the bloke that I was saying to stop or to calm down, but there's only so much I could do. I'm only small and he was a bigger bloke. Or just I couldn't get him to calm down, you know.
Here's another would have statement. She would have told him to calm down, but she didn't. Why didn't she? She tells us that too. He was a big bloke. She was scared of him.
When you say there was a lot of blood, were you downstairs? Were you on the deck? Were you in the cabin?
Okay. On deck, I think.
And what was your reaction to that?
That's when I've thrown up the vomit.
What mistake did Bob make? What did Bob do wrong?
Nothing. Oh,
Nothing at all.
well, he just told piss off, I suppose.
He was just at the wrong place, wrong time.
Yes, please, we nearly done.
Do you know what happened to Bob's body?
No. I'm not saying, but whatever's happened, it's been horrible.
What was the second man doing?
Oh, I gather that the bloke that I was with just called him down to the cabin.
Did you go back to shore while they were dealing with that, or did you stay on the boat?
I must have gone back to shore, but I can't recollect how.
But you know that Bob Chappell was killed by one of the men you were with. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Are you certain about that?
She is very clear that he did that to her. And that is the hardest thing for a liar to do, is to make the direct accusation.
So we have short, clear, direct answers and a direct accusation. To me, this all sounds like she is telling the truth.
Did you see Sue Neill Fraser on that yacht?
No,
She wasn't there.
not that I can recall, no.
But if what you're saying is true, then an innocent woman has been sitting in jail for 9 years.
Yes.
The trial of Sue Neill Fraser, you were 16 at the time.
Yes.
Why didn't you tell the truth?
It was because I was 16, I was homeless, I was scared, you know. It's been daunting.
What were you scared of?
I'm scared of everything.
Tell me, explain that to me.
Well, what if, you know, his reaction maybe?
Who, the man who killed Bob?
Yeah.
Did he tell you to shut up?
Yes, now can I stop, please?
Sooner or later, for Sue Neill Fraser to be released, you'll have to go back to a courtroom.
Yeah.
Will you be able to handle that? You won't go back on your story again?
No.
How can you be so sure this time round?
I just am. I can't give a legitimate reason as to why anyone should believe me. You know, given my track record, yeah, maybe they shouldn't. But I'm here now and I'm doing all I can. I can't do any more than that.
So there's a reason that I didn't want to do a real victim, because these are actually hard to watch. Whereas the false accusers are easy to watch because it's so clear that they're lying once you know the signs. Right? So the fact that it's clear that this actually happened to her makes it harder to watch.